Ohio State and Wisconsin tee it up this week, Joe. Ohio State in prime time. Not really prime time, but prime kind of game at their time slot in back-to-back weeks. Ohio State is undefeated coming off the big win against Penn State. Wisconsin kind of not doing so good at the current moment. They're not bad, but they're not too good. Tanner Mordecai is out. Locke is the kid that's coming in for them.
Right.
What do you think of this game, Ohio State and Wisconsin?
Right. The two games we're talking about today, I think that we can be pretty clear here. We pretty much think that the favored team is going to win. But these are still good matchups. These are matchups with top teams facing well-coached, well-rounded programs. And I think that that's what Wisconsin is. I think Wisconsin is trying to rebuild their identity. The way that roster was built is it's much closer to what Iowa was before. And he's trying to build a roster similar to the one that he had at Cincinnati, trying to get some more athletes in there, trying to build a more explosive team. Them not having Mordecai, I don't know if that really hurts them, because last week they were down against Illinois. They climbed all the way back. Locke wasn't great, but Locke looked fine and made some throws in some spots. I think one of the key things. He made
some big-time throws late, man. Big-time throws late. I was kind of impressed.
That won me some money because I bet on Wisconsin. But I think that what's been really good for Wisconsin lately, and it's something to monitor, is the success of Braylon Allen, who's their star running back. He was really slow to start the season. He's a big bruising back, and he's now in this rhythm. And when you've got these big, powerful running backs that are built like linebackers and they're in that hot rhythm, that's when you start to worry a little bit. And I think that Ohio State, they saw two good running backs last week. They weren't effectively attacked by them because they didn't run the ball enough. Got to pay attention to that. Does Braylon Allen have a big game, and can he control the clock, keep that Ohio State offense off the field? That's going to be really important for Wisconsin.
Yeah, and to add to your point, look, Ohio State fans were mad at me after the Penn State week last week. Here's me trying to say I don't have any disservice or discredit or hate for the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Sure.
I really don't. I really don't. The only other school's gear that I have in my closet is Ohio State. And Southeastern, but that's to be, given. Joe, I'm going to make an outlandish statement, but I don't know how else to say it, but stay with me. Either Ohio State's going to go in here in this game and blow them out, blow Wisconsin out of the water for whatever reason, however it really happens. Or I think Wisconsin keeps this between within a score. Teams historically don't, meaning not just Ohio State, but teams historically, when you have a big emotional game, the next week you normally come out flat, right?
Yep.
I'm not saying that that's going to happen to Ohio State, okay? But it could. I do like the Locke kid. I think you hit the nail on the head when it comes to a Wisconsin thing. You're going to have to run the ball a lot more. Allen has 120 rushes, 704 yards, almost 6 yards a carry, 8 touchdowns. Mellis, I think is how you say his last name, if I'm not mistaken. 51 rushes, 307 yards.
Malusi. Are you talking about Malusi?
Yeah, Malusi. Yeah. He also has 4 rushing touchdowns on the year. I really feel like I got to lean Ohio State kind of more heavily here. I do think that there's a shot that Wisconsin can keep this within a one-score game, because I do think that Fickle will see what he's having success in, and he's not as hard-headed as your boy in Penn State, James Franklin. I think that if he has success in something early offensively, they're going to try to go in here and continue to have success, whatever that is. I do think that there is a closer – listen, hear me out. I do think that there is a closer coaching advantage with Wisconsin going up against Ohio State than when Penn State went up against Ohio State. What do I mean? I like Luke Fickell as a coach. I think he's a smart coach. I think he knows what he's got to do to keep games close like this. It's his team, man. He's an Ohio State guy. I would not be surprised if it's close, but something in my gut says, man, I really do think Ohio State's starting to find a trend late in that game offensively. They did some really good things, and you know what? Marvin Harrison Jr. is still walking the earth, for the Ohio State Buckeyes. I don't know a good read to have on this one. I'm going to take Ohio State probably around 9-10. Okay. But I do think it can be a one-score game for most of it.
Yeah, not to sound like I'm trying to pick Ohio State apart too much. I know that I've been back and forth this season on how I think about them, and some Ohio State fans, similar to you, think I criticized them even though I picked them to win last week. I really, really see what you're talking about here, which is really important. And just to look as recently as last week, teams that had a big emotional dump of a game and then having to turn around and play another opponent. It happened with Washington, it happened with Oregon, it happened with Texas, and it happened with Oklahoma. It happened with all those teams their next game against much lesser opponents, middle of the pack of the conference, and they laid eggs. They all laid eggs. They found ways to win, which kept the game close. I think it's a very similar circumstance possibly here for Ohio State, that this thing is a 10-point or so, maybe even less game as you talked about. Now, at the same time, though, what I do find really intriguing is that Ohio State is now starting to get healthy. We're starting to probably get back Emeka Egbuka and Travion Henderson fully back healthy and start to get those running backs back and rolling the way that we know that they can. They have to. A really critical thing for me, because they weren't great last week running the ball. I need to see them establish the run a little bit more, and I need them to start figuring that out and feeling that out, because that is going to be really important for them when they play Michigan and potentially the college football playoff if they make it again.
Yeah, and our first college football playoff ranking comes out next Monday or next Tuesday, whatever day it is. Yeah, that it comes out. Let me pick apart. You just kind of picked apart Ohio State. Let me do that to Wisconsin. Joe, they're not a good football team in areas. Okay,
they're red Iowa, but not as good defensively
for now. They are trying to get away from this old school run. They want to be more balanced. They want to be more spread, throw the ball around. I don't know how confident I feel about Locke. Okay. This is a hell of a defense that you're going to have to go against. I don't know how I feel about him. Now, he did make some big throws later in the game last week. I just can't see where Wisconsin comes out victorious in this. I want to lean more of a 10-score game because history does tell us that. But I just really wouldn't be surprised if Ohio State, as The Rock says, lay it to smack it down on that candy ass. And look, the crazier things have happened. These are still 18 to 21-year-old kids or dudes. They're not kids anymore, but dudes. I like Ohio State here. Like, even I don't want to bet. I would bet the money line just to be safe if I'm a betting man, and I might actually just do that. Okay,
you're not gonna make much money doing that. You make a couple dollars.
Yeah, but I don't feel, but I parlay a lot. You know that. Yeah. All right. What about?
But your point, though, just to round out what you're saying there, we saw how troubled Drew Allar was last week.
Right.
Locke might have himself a long day, and he had a bit of a rough go last week going up against Jer'Jon Newton. And
the question becomes: does Locke miss as many passes as this kid, Allar?
Well, so there's a really good point here, is that if they don't try to throw the ball 40 times in the game, maybe they'll have a little bit more success. Maybe they look at the film and say, well, why did Penn State do this?
You got a Notre Dame, Ohio State. You can't be scared to punt.
Yeah.
But the problem is as bad as I wouldn't want to say this, as now a Notre Dame hater, apparently, the comments tell me. I don't think Wisconsin has the personnel to try to pull a Notre Dame. I don't know. I don't really see the avenue for Wisconsin. Like, there's not one other than running the football highly effectively with Allen. There's no other way.
No, they don't have this. They don't have the corners.
150, 200. He's going to have to break loose, and against that number 5, top 5. Hey, and look, a lot of people last year, Ohio State fans, they're pretty upset with old Jim Knowles. My man's got him a top 5.
Pretty good.